So yeah, some people have like I said in the last part, or in the first part of the series, the previous part, people had more questions about this than they did the first show, and um, yeah, it's interesting, and I'm sure that you've come across some of these. I think some of these are probably fairly common, but I mean, they're still good questions. Let me find where I got them all written down here. Um, Oh, okay. Eclipses. Somebody asked about eclipses. Like how does the the shadow being a circle and the only thing that could make a shadow like that is a sphere. How does the whole idea of eclipses work with like a flat Earth model?
Yeah, that was one of two things holding me to the globe. The two big things. I mean, there are others like meteors and comets and asteroids that I don't understand how that works in a flat Earth. So I have minor ones and then the major ones. The two major ones that were holding me to the globe is the Coriolis effect, which includes the spinning of the stars in opposite directions. I can understand Coriolis effect at ground level, affecting weaponry and long range, but it only seems to work with like bullets. It doesn't really work with cannonballs and other things. So, I had some issues with that. But the other one was the lunar eclipse. And when I started looking into the lunar eclipse, I found that Scripture says that it is a lesser light. It doesn't say that it's reflecting the light of the greater light. It is a light to itself. It is a light that rules the night. Now, monkey man science tells us that the moon is just reflecting the light of the sun. But Scripture doesn't say that, and neither does the book of Enoch. Enoch, in fact, goes even further into describing the heavenly luminaries, not just the stars, but the sun and the moon. And in fact, it goes into great detail about the fact that they generate their own light, including the moon is its own light generator. And there's a guy out there, Crow 777, I think, Crow 777, I think is his YouTube channel. I haven't spent a lot of time on his site. He's got some very interesting observations that appear to at least insinuate that the moon may be a rear projection system. What do I mean by that? In corporate video, where I used to do a lot of corporate events, we would set up rear screen projector screens. And the screen is like this, the audience is where you are, and behind the screen, we have the projector that projects on the screen, so you see it here. So the projector's not out in the audience. Rear screen projection. He has observed what appears to be a refresh rate going across, like a digital refresh rate, going across the face of the moon. I haven't looked into it enough to confirm or deny that. I'm just saying what this guy's done, and you can look up videos for yourself. But I just started to think, okay, Lord, your word, your canonized text says that it is a lesser light that rules the night. Whatever you want to think about Enoch, whether it's Scripture or whatever, look, it's endorsed by the Scriptures enough to be quoted from it. So in my mind, at least it carries that authority. It tells you point blank that the moon has very specific light that it generates for itself. So I thought, okay, well, how does a self-projecting, I mean, we know the sun is the fireball, so it's, emitting heat and light. We also know that the light from the sun is very different than the light from the moon, and actually has profound different effects on living organisms, the frequency of the light. So there's definitely some differences there. And the moon puts off a cold light and the sun puts off a warm light. And reflection doesn't seem to work like that. If you ever play with mirrors and stuff reflecting the sun, I mean, I used to do stuff with mirrors and magnifying glasses and burn like caterpillars and stuff, So, I mean, reflection doesn't really seem to work in that regard. So I was thinking, okay, it clearly looks like it's a sphere, or at the very least a half sphere. We don't know because we've never seen the other side of it. And that's always tripped me up too, because I'm like, the rotation seems awfully weird if the moon and the sun the moon and the earth are both rotating, that it's rotating at a very specific way, so that the same face is always, it just seems, I've always had trouble with that even on the globe model. But yeah, regardless, we don't know that it's a sphere, because I don't know that we've ever been up there. It looks like a sphere. I've looked at it many, many times through telescopes. It looks like a three-dimensional sphere. Some people say that it's a hologram. I don't buy that. I've looked at it enough to believe myself that it is a solid three-dimensional object. If it's generating its own light, though, without fire or anything like that, I mean, how would it generate its own light? Well, I don't know if you remember this, but a few years ago, and people can Google this, NASA bombs the sun. NASA bombs the moon. They launched a probe supposedly into the moon, and it apparently rang like a bell for an extended period of time with sensors or whatever. Now, of course, that presupposes that we actually put probes up there that did that, so I'm take it for whatever you think. But NASA themselves are putting forth the idea that the moon is hollow. So I'm thinking, well, I was looking at a lighthouse, and the way a lighthouse has a spinning, rotating light on the inside of it, a circular light that goes around. And so I created an animation. I thought, what if there was a circular light on the inside of the moon, and the moon is hollow, and the moon has somewhat of a semi-transparent, opaque, but semi-transparent exterior. And I created this as a
Call, click, or
oh, brother.
Stop by Grubbs Infinity today when you're in the market for a luxury vehicle. Experience.
I hate that. Okay, so I created a ball that has a black and white surface to it. You know, half of the ball is black and half of the ball is white. And I spun the ball around thinking, okay, what if the light was the white part? And if it's a uniform opaque light? And so there's an idea. Now I put that in space. Okay. Then I put a semi-transparent surface on it, and then you end up with something like this: a self-illuminating moon.
Wow.
With a spinning light on the inside of it. Now, is that what's really happening? I don't know. I'm just, this is called, the scientific method is called testing, coming up with a hypothesis and coming up with a theory and testing it. Now, at least in three-dimensional modeling, it works. And then as I'm making this, and I'm kind of searching for ideas on this, I saw there's Uncle Milton's moon phase. This right here is a toy for kids that does that. It's Uncle Milton's moon in my room.
In My Room presents Moon in My Room. See the moon come to life in your own room with brilliant moonlight and authentic detail. Activate it with the remote control and see a different lunar phase each time you touch the button. Choose from 12 different phases of the moon: crescent moon, half moon, full moon. You decide.
I'm going, okay, if Uncle Milton can figure out how to do that, surely Yahuwah could figure out the same thing if he wanted to, But I mean, this is like, I'm going, okay, Lord, is this confirmation? Or I mean, I found this like right after I had made my animation. A self-illuminating moon that creates its own phases. So you can go get this.
Wow.
Or apparently, I guess they got this at Walmart. Uncle Milton's moon in my room. So, I don't know. Is that proof of anything? No, but it's certainly compelling and interesting. So now what about the lunar eclipse? The lunar eclipse is still kind of tripping me out a little bit. Like the solar eclipse, I don't really have a problem with it because the moon can still be doing that in my view.
Right.
However, in the case of the lunar eclipse, supposedly it's the Earth, the moon. Okay, if the sun's over here and the moon, or the Earth has this kind of cone-shaped shadow, umbra or whatever they call it, and the moon goes into it, that's what supposedly creates the blood moon effect. But there are a number of documented cases in history where the moon went into a blood red moon lunar eclipse phase while the sun was still up.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time. It's rare, but there are a number of cases, and people don't believe me, go look it up for yourself. Lunar eclipses, the sun up at the same time. That there have been enough cases. I mean, if even one of those cases is true, how does that work? How do you get? Because the sun has to be here, the Earth has to be here, and the moon has to be here for that to work. But if the sun and moon are both up visually, then the angles aren't working right.
Right. Wow.
So there's what I found when I was looking that up, and I don't remember if it's Rehu or something like that. There's a Hindu belief, Rehu and Raku or something like that. I don't remember. I'd have to look it up again. I stumbled on it like 2 weeks ago. That they have a belief in a dark sphere, a dark planet, that is the cause of the eclipse. and they even say it's not the moon going in front of the sun, that it is this this dark sphere, planetoid, whatever it is, that is doing that. Now, okay, I don't know. I mean, but there's this ancient belief that there were these two dark spheres. I mean, you got the sun, the moon, and apparently these two other dark things that are what caused the effect that we see as a lunar eclipse or a solar eclipse. You know, maybe it's just myth. I don't know, but I'm still searching that out myself. So
Wow.
the lunar eclipse is still very much a question that I have as well. But these are some of the plausible, possible, potential answers that I've been looking into.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's really interesting.